Hi everyone, this is Ravi. Welcome to Appium mobile automation tutorial. As you all know, I've already published lesson 1 where I've showed you how can we install the Appium tool in your system. So we have seen the basic setup like installing Node.js, installing Appium, and then how can you install your Appium Doctor, and then how can you run your Appium server, right? And then how can you install Appium drivers. So all these topics I've covered in my lesson 1. So this is our lesson 2 where I'm going to talk about how can you set up your system for Android mobile automation. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon, you'll receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you. As part of this lesson, I'm going to teach you how can we set up your system for Android mobile automation. As you all know, in my previous lesson, I've covered how can we download and install Appium tool, and then how can you download and install some of the dependencies related to Appium, and also we have installed uh, Appium Doctor and Appium drivers. So in this lesson, we are going to concentrate on setting up system to start with Android mobile automation. So our agenda item is, first we are going to see what are all the missing dependencies that are required for mobile automation, and then we're going to see how can we set up Java JDK that is required to start with our mobile automation, and we are also going to see how can we install Appium Android drivers, which I told you in my previous lesson as well. I'm going to just cover at a high level, and then we're going to start setting up Android SDK and SDK tools by using Android Studio, and we are going to set up the Android real device for automation, and also I'm going to show you how can you set up Android virtual device to start with your automation. And then I'm going to introduce you to the APK file for testing. So don't worry if you are not familiar with setting up the environment for your mobile automation. I'm gonna cover step by step with the demo. So our first agenda is we need to run below command by using Appium Doctor to identify what are all the dependencies that are required to set up your Android mobile automation in your system. For that, let us go to CMD, which is command prompt, and type Appium Doctor, Appium hyphen Doctor hyphen Android. So if you remember correctly, in my previous session, I have already showed you how can we install Appium Doctor in your system. So I would recommend you guys to visit my previous lesson. So here it gives you all the necessary dependencies and optional dependencies that are required to start with your Android mobile automation. If you see here, the first part, this shows you the necessary dependencies to start with Android mobile automation. And these are your optional dependencies to start with your mobile automation. If you see the necessary dependencies, so if you see here, I have Node.js, which we already installed in our previous lesson, and Node version, it is showing me 20.15.1, and Android home, we haven't set up this. I'm going to cover this in this particular lesson. And Java home, it is already set up in my machine, but in your case it shows you the cross mark because we never set up Java home in our earlier lesson. And then ADB Android emulator is also not ready for us. We are going to set up this as well, right? And bin folder, it's already there. So now that means these necessary dependencies must be installed in your systems to start with Android mobile automation. And here, optional dependencies. It is showing some optional dependencies. These are all optional for us. You can install or you need not to install them to start with your Android mobile automation. So now make a note of missing dependencies so that we can install them in this lesson. So now we know what are all the missing dependencies, necessary missing dependencies that are required to start with Android mobile automation. So now, as part of that, our first missing dependency is Java Home. First, we need to check if Java JDK is present in your system or not. How can you check that? You can simply go to command prompt. You can execute Java hyphen version. In my case, I can see I already have a Java, or you can also see Java compiler version. I can see my Java compiler version is 11. So in your case, you might get a response saying it is not available, right? So if I go to my program files, right, let's go back to my here. If I go to PC and then program files, go to Java and JDK. So I can see I have a Java JDK already in my system. So in your case, you might not have the Java JDK. So don't worry, I'm gonna tell you how to install it. Okay. So to install Java JDK, you need to go to this URL. I'm gonna paste this URL in the description. So go to that URL. So this is the URL I'm talking about. Okay. So this URL contains all the versions. You can see JDK 22, JDK 21, JDK 17, right? So in my system, I have very older version. Let us install the latest version as well. Okay. So let's say I want to install the latest version JDK 22. And here you can select what is your operating system. Is it Linux, Mac or Windows? So mine is Windows machine. So I'm going to select it as a Windows as my Windows operating system. And here there are two ways. Either you can install directly the installer.exe or you can install the zip folder. If you are installing .exe and run this as a software, it's going to install it's going to install the software by itself. If you unzip the zip folder, you can simply unzip it and then set up your Java home directory. So I'm going to show you the first way where I'm going to install or I'm going to download the zip folder. Click on this. So this will download the zip folder. Let's go to the zip folder and this is my zip folder, right? So this is my zip folder. I'm going to copy this and I'm going to keep it in my C folder and go to program files, go to Java and I'm going to unzip it here. Okay. So this is my latest JDK. What I'm going to do, I'm going to simply extract this unzip. I'm going to unzip it. Okay. Extract. So this is my extracted folder. So if you see it has JDK 22. That means this is my latest JDK. So what I'm doing, I'm just cutting that JDK 22. I'm keeping that under Java folder. Okay. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to delete all these. Okay. I'm going to delete this empty folder and let me also delete my zip folder as well. So now this is the latest version of Java JDK that we have extracted. So once it is done, let's go to presentation. So now we have downloaded the latest Java JDK. So after that, you need to set up Java home as your environment variable. For that, let us go to environment variable, environment system variables, okay, and click on environment variables. And here under system variables, let me add a new variable called Java underscore home. And what is the path? The path should be the latest Java JDK folder that we extracted from the zip folder, right? Copy this. This is my latest Java JDK. So this one, right? Copy this and paste here. Click OK. So now we set up a system variable. So now under path, you need to create a new environment variable, and here percentile Java underscore home, whatever just now we created, right? That is our system variable, percentile forward slash. So let's go back here. You need to provide the path of bin. So forward slash and then bin. This is your path variable. So we created one system variable Java underscore home, and then we added a bin folder to the path of bin folder to the path variable. Click on OK. Click on OK. So once that is done, now let us again check the Java version. Okay, let's go to our command prompt, and here Java hyphen version. Now you should see the latest version. See, I can see the latest version, and then Java C hyphen version. So this is your compiler version. So that means our Java in your system is Java JDK is installed and it is ready. So now check the Appium doctor and hyphen Android. Let's see the dependencies now. What happens? Appium hyphen doctor Android. So now you should see Java home under necessary dependencies. Here under necessary dependencies, your Java home is set up. So now you should see that your Java home is set up in your system as well with JDK 22 version. Okay, so once that is done, now what is our next step? Verify drivers required for the Android and update if necessary. So I showed this, I told you in my previous session also. What is the command? Appium driver list. So what are the drivers that are required to start with your Appium automation? So in our previous session, we have already installed UI Automator 2, and also we have installed XUI test as well. If these two are not installed in your system, so you will get a red mark here. It says not installed, but here it says already installed, right? So if the Appium driver like UI Automator 2 for Android, XUI test is for iOS. If these are not installed, you need to simply provide the command Appium driver install UI Automator 2. I have already told this in our previous session. And to install XUI test driver, Appium driver install XUI test. Let's say I want to see if I have any updated version of these drivers. What I can do? Appium driver list updates. So what it's gonna say? What it's gonna give me? It is gonna give me the list of drivers, driver list hyphen updates. So it gives me the list of available drivers, the latest list of available drivers, and it compares with the drivers that is available in your system. If you see here, UI Automator 2, I have installed 3.7.2, but it says 3.7.3 is available in the market. In the same way, XUI test 7.23.1 I have installed, but 7.24 is already available in the market. So how can I update this? You can simply run Appium driver update UI automator 2. Let's example, now I want to update my Appium driver, right? Appium driver update UI automator 2. This will install my latest version 3.7.3. In the same way, I would like to update XUI test as well. So now my Appium UI automator is updated from 3.7.2 to 3.7.3. So now I would like to update the same XUI test. So this will update my XUI test to the latest version 7.24. So now let us run again driver list. Okay. If I see the drivers list, I should have both the drivers up to date. So this is up to date and this is up to date. And these are all not required. So for us, these two are the mandatory. So I would recommend you guys to install these two so that we can start Android mobile automation and iOS mobile automation. So once that is done, so now what is our next step? Our next step is you need to check now what is Appium Doctor Android. Let's say, let us see now. Let us execute this Appium -doctor -android that we executed at the beginning, right? So now if I execute this under necessary dependencies, I can see Java home is checked. Now Android home is not checked. What we can do now? Now, just now we completed all these steps. We get the list of drivers by using Appium driver list, and we have installed the driver related to Android by using this command, and then we have installed the driver related to iOS by using this command, and then to check the updates you need to provide this command so that you will get what is the latest version that is available in the market and what is the version that you installed, right? And if you want to update the versions, you can simply provide Appium driver update and the driver name. So that's what we did earlier. So what is our next step? Our next step is we need to now download or we need to set up Android SDK and SDK tools. So there are two options. First option is you can simply download only required tools for your Android automation. And another method is you can download and install Android Studio. So to set up Android SDK and SDK tools, what is this Android SDK and SDK tools? SDK tools provides a capability to connect to your real mobile device or to create a virtual device so that you can start automating your mobile test case. So there are two options that are available. Either you can simply download the required tools or you can download install your Android Studio. So in this session, I'm gonna provide you the second option. We are gonna download Android Studio and then we are gonna create our virtual device and we are gonna connect to our real device. Okay, so that is the approach we are gonna take. So to download install Android Studio, you need to first copy this URL. Let's copy this URL, or let us go to Chrome browser. You can simply say download Android Studio and click on the first link. And here, this is my latest version of the Android Studio. You can simply click on this and then accept the terms here. I have read and agreed to the terms and conditions and click on this. This will download your latest version of your Android Studio. I'm just saving this. So it takes couple of minutes because it's a big file with 1.1 GB file. Okay, so let it download. So your download is finished, and here is the Android Studio.exe. So now you just need to run this .exe file. Double click on this .exe file. So this opens your installation wizard. Okay, click on next, and here you can see it installs your Android Studio, the Android Studio developer environment to design and develop your app for Android. And also it also installs Android virtual device. It gives you description, a pre-configured and optimized Android virtual device for app testing on emulators. So that means we want to also test our application by using real device as well as the emulators. That's why I would like to install this as well. If you want to uncheck, you can simply uncheck this. This will reduce your space required is 2.6 GB, but as soon as I check this, now it's 3.6 GB. That means this has a separate, this has the file size 1 GB. If you uncheck, it reduces by 1 GB. So if it is required for you, the virtual devices, you can check this and then click on next. And here it's going to ask you to provide the path where all the files need to be installed. Okay, I would like to create a separate path here. Okay, let's go here, go to C drive, and here I'm going to mention as Android Studio. I'm going to create a new folder called Android Studio. So I would like to provide this path. Copy this path and go back to the installation wizard and provide the path here. So this is my Android Studio. So and then if you want to keep the path as same as the default, you can keep as same as default. Okay, and here now let's click on next. As soon as you click on next, you can see all these components will be installed, and then click on install. And now it's going to start installing the components. Let's go back to Android Studio. See now under Android Studio, it started installing the files. So it takes a couple of minutes to install the Android Studio. So now our installation is complete. And here click on next and click on finish. So as soon as you click on finish, it starts the Android Studio. So what is our next step? We installed Android Studio on the system. Now start Android Studio. So I'm starting the Android Studio. So once you start the Android Studio, you need to go to SDK Manager or click on SDK Manager icon. So you can see import Android Studio settings configure. So I don't want to, do not import settings. I'll just click on OK. So now it opens your Android Studio. So here now Android Studio wizard has been opened. So we have just installed. Now your setup wizard is opened. Click on next. So here there are two ways to set up. Either you can go by standard. Android Studio will be installed with most common settings and options recommended for most users. Or you can select custom. You can customize installation settings and components installed. Because I would like to go with the customization. Okay, click on next. And here you can see it is installing following components. What are those? Android SDK, The collection of Android platform APIs, tools and utilities that enables you to debug, profile and compile your apps. And this is my Android API 35, the latest Android platform. And also it installs performance Android virtual device, which is 1.6 GB. I would like to change the path of this location. I would like to create a new path under C drive. Go to C drive, and here I would like to create a new folder called SDK tools. SDK tools. And I would like to provide this new path here. So let's provide this new path. Okay. Or you can browse this one. Okay. You can browse it under C drive. I would like to select SDK tools that we created just now. Click OK. So this is what I would like to do. And then click on next. And here it is giving you recommendation to allocate minimum 2 GB RAM. Okay. And then click on, if you want to increase the RAM, you can increase the RAM also. You just simply drag here and drop it here. Or you can put it back to recommended one. Okay. I like to keep it as recommended. Let's go back here again. So I just want to make sure you change the path if you would like to. If you don't want to change the path, you can simply ignore it. Okay. So now let's go to next, and I would like to keep the RAM as recommended. Click on next, and here, and then you need to click on next, and here these are all the build tools that is gonna install. So basically whatever we selected, right? Android emulator, and then Android SDK build tools, right? Platform tools, build tools, because platform tools and build tools are very important for us. Okay. And then you can simply click on next. So here you need to accept the terms. Click on accept. Here you need to accept for all these services. Accept. So one by one you need to accept. Okay, emulators, and then accept this one as well, and then click on finish. This will install all the components that are required for your mobile automation. So it's starting downloading all the components that we selected. So now we can see the installation is completed. The only error we got is Intel Hacks installation failed. To install Intel Hacks, follow the instructions found in this. Okay, but however, so our installation is finished. Click on finish. And what is our next task? Our next task is, let's go to, you need to select the SDK platforms and select desired Android API levels you want to target. Okay, let's go here, click on more action, and let's go to SDK manager once. Okay, I want to see the SDK manager. So here, if you want to install some additional APIs, right now we already installed 35. If you want to install some additional APIs, you can simply check them and install them. And then if you need any additional SDK tools, you can check them and install them. But however, when we were setting up by using the wizard, we already selected this highest level API, which is 35. Okay, click on OK. So now we need to set up the Android home. So if you see here, how can we set up Android home? Let's go to environment variables. And here go to environment variables. At system level, I would like to create a new path called Android home. Let's see first, do we have any Android home? We don't have any. Click on new, Android underscore home. What is the path? The path that we have provided while setting up the details, where Android, so SDK tools, this is the path. So when we are installing your Android Studio, we have set up this SDK path, right? Provide this path here. Click on OK. So once that is done, now you need to set up the path variables. How can you set up the path variables? Let's go to path, double click here, and here I would like to set up two different path variables. One is for platform tools, another is for build tools. You see here, you have platform tools and then you have a build tools, correct? These two folders you have. Now we need to set up path variables for these two folders. Let's go back here now. Let's create new percentile Android underscore home percentile forward slash build hyphen tools. This is one. Let's copy this and create another one. Android underscore home, here platform tools. Platform tools. You need to make sure the folder name, build tools, platform tools, Android home. Click OK. So now I have set up Android home as my system variable, and then I have set up two path variables for build tools and platform tools. Click OK, and then click OK. So now let us run again the Appium Doctor Android now and see what happens. Let's go back to here. We already set up these path variables and Android variables, right? Android home we completed, path variables we completed. Let's go here now. Now Appium hyphen Doctor Android. Now your dependencies, whatever the dependencies earlier it showed, it should not have those many. So you can see here now your Android home is set up. Your Java home also set up. Earlier we were not having this Android home. However, it is showing Android APK analyzer bat file is not available. But for now you can ignore that. But rest all, you can see all the necessary dependencies are available now, right? So if you have any queries, leave your queries in the comment box. I'll try to respond to your queries. So in our next lesson, lesson 3, I'm gonna show you how can you connect to your real device and start automating your test cases, or how can you create virtual devices by using Android Studio, and then how can you connect to your virtual device and start automating your test cases. Hope you all understand the concepts of lesson 2, where we have set up the Java JDK latest version in your system, and then we have installed Appium Android drivers, and then we updated the driver versions, right? And then we have set up the Android SDK and SDK tools by using Android Studio, and we also gonna see how can you set up your real device by using Android Studio for automating your mobile test cases in our next lesson. And also I'm going to show you how can you set up virtual device by using Android Studio so that you can start automating the test cases by using virtual device. Please do subscribe to the channel, click on bell icon, you will receive notifications whenever I publish more videos. Thank you.